Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Woo! Hey, hey, hey. Goodbye, Councilwoman Tammy Morales. Seattle's most extreme council member just gave us the holiday gift we didn't even know we needed when she resigned today. Tammy Morales says she's gone and she is not leaving without, of course, complaining. It's fascinating to, her statement is very long. I'm not going to read all of it. I'll talk about some of the reasons and the rationale she gives, which is just utter ridiculousness. Tammy Morales, when Kshama Sawant decided to leave the city council, Seattle Socialist council member, that was a huge win for the city. It was a win for decorum and trying to bring some semblance of rational thought back to not only city council meetings and the deliberations, but also to the crowd. I mean, Kshama Sawant would pack city council chambers with all sorts of left-wing activists, social activists, and they would disrupt any sort of meaningful discussion that was happening in the city council, which, as you know, is already rare. So on the rare occasion it did happen, it would be disrupted. And so then you had Tammy Morales left, who was basically socialist light. She had supported police defunding. She was very opposed to really anything that would help the city deal with the drug crisis, the homelessness crisis, the crime crisis, very anti-business. Well, she up and said, I'm out today. I'll read part of the statement. And again, it's just the biggest woe is me statement. She said, I'm worried about the future of this institution and my place in it for the last 11 months. This council has eroded our checks and balances as a legislative department and undermined my work as a policymaker. Oh, God, thank God they undermined your work as a policymaker. As an elected representative, I took an oath to the Constitution of the United States, Washington State, and to our city charter. Key among those duties is to protect the health, safety, environment, and general welfare of the people. I can no longer, in good conscience, say I am doing this by remaining on this council. Yeah, I'm sure she really cared about her oath to the Constitution. She goes on to say, I also have a personal responsibility to my family who deserve to see me show up whole. This role has caused my mental and physical well-being to deteriorate, and this is an unfortunate reality for many women in particular who serve in public office. Yes, because women are the only ones in public office who are criticized and scrutinized and who feel like they can't push their agenda through. But this role has caused my mental and physical well-being to deteriorate. All I think about is all the people whose mental and physical well-being have deteriorated because she was on the Seattle City Council. It's just insane to me. We pulled up some of Tammy Morales' best hits, so you know exactly what kind of councilwoman the city of Seattle is losing. For instance, back in 2020, not only did she condone really the rioting that was happening at the time, but she excused it as sort of a necessary evil.
What I don't want to hear is for our constituents to be told to be civil, not to be reactionary, to be told that looting doesn't solve anything.
Yeah, to be told looting doesn't solve anything. And then, of course, we know what looting turned into. Looting turned into CHOP. Looting turned into the takeover of a police precinct. Looting turned into murders at CHOP that had nothing to do with the police whatsoever because spineless cowards like Tammy Morales wanted to pander to her base and not do what was right for, in her words, the health, safety, environment, and general welfare of the people she serves. Give me a break. And then, of course, a couple years after calling for and supporting police defunding in the summer of 2020, Seattle found itself in a shock of the century police staffing crisis, and she had the audacity to complain about the amount of money that had to be spent on police overtime because they didn't have enough officers to fill shifts.
The department needs to better manage its overtime because we are in a deficit situation and we can't keep just adding tens of millions of dollars every year because they don't know what their plan should be.
They don't know what their plan should be because for a year you push for them not to have jobs. This woman is nuts. And then this was my favorite one. I just had to play it. It was a Como News article. Remember when the whole debate around what to do with stolen vehicles and police chases was going on? And she came out and said, the city of Seattle is going to sue these car makers like Kia and Hyundai for having the audacity to make their vehicles too easy for these youth to steal. And she was confronted by a Como News reporter because she said basically youth are just, it's just a joyride, right? Oh, it's no big deal. Let's go after the car companies, not the actual criminals who perpetrate this kind of behavior. And there was this just fantastic exchange with Como News.
The most familiar part of Kia theft is this: stolen cars used as battering rams to bust into businesses. No doubt you've seen it plenty of times, but somehow this was news to Councilmember Morales.
Well, that's a good question. I haven't heard that these stolen cars are being used for smash and grab.
It was her Jay Inslee moment. Chop? I knew about Chop the whole time. Chop, what is that? So it is a glorious day for common sense in the city of Seattle, a glorious day for people who actually want to seriously deliberate on policy making that is going to improve the lives of Seattleites, whether they know they want it or not, that's going to improve outcomes on public safety, be supportive of law enforcement. Now, there's always the devil you don't know, right? There's always the devil you don't know. Who's going to replace, you got a familiar enemy. Who's going to replace them? I guess that's TBD, but hopefully this is showing the city of Seattle that if you have someone like Shama Sawant or Tammy Morales, they're going to take their ball and go home when they can't get their socialist agenda pushed through. She made this list also. I'm not going to put up the whole list for you because it's very, very long, but she talked about the ways I had mentioned. She said that the council has eroded our checks and balances as a legislative department and undermined my work as a policymaker. Just a few of the unhinged things on her list. They stifled First Amendment rights during public comment by arresting people. You don't have, I don't know how many times we have to have a conversation about what the First Amendment guarantees you and does not guarantee you. You do not have a First Amendment right to trespass in a place you've been trespassed from because of criminal activity. You do not have a First Amendment right to threaten and harass and intimidate policymakers because you don't like what they were doing. And that's very clearly what was happening for years, really. And then finally you had council members come in and say, I'm not going to tolerate this, and call in the police. You cannot bang on glass windows to try to interrupt policymaking. Wasn't that the complaint about January 6th? That they had business to get done on January 6th to certify an election. You had all these individuals who shattered windows and broke in, were pounding on the doors of the chamber. No different than the sentiment and the goal of the people who disrupt those city council meetings. They want the city council meetings to have to adjourn because of safety reasons. So they can't get the business that they're there to get done. So they can't take the vote that they were going to take. And that happened multiple times. And yeah, for Tammy Morales, that's just First Amendment protected free speech. It's just ridiculous. Intimidated. She's resigning because they would intimidate commenters by having a police presence when any controversial legislation is considered. Why the flying fuck do you think they have to have a police presence? For the reason we just talked about earlier, because you were the council member who, again, condoned all this left-wing behavior your entire time in the city council. Oh, rioting? That's just fine. Why are people angry about rioting? Looting? Oh, looting is a necessary evil. You supported CHOP. You never spoke out about CHOP. People died at CHOP. You've never spoken out once against a left-wing violent riot in the city of Seattle. And now you wonder why they had to start having a police presence at Seattle City Council meetings? Because of your people. Because of your followers. Because of what you condoned. Because of what you supported. This woman, it's insane. They passed, this is again, a reason for, this is hilarious because it's a reason for her leaving and it'd be a reason for me staying. They passed 11 separate bills to increase the punitive nature of our criminal legal system without any additional meaningful accountability for our police department. So they passed laws to hold criminals accountable without passing laws to hold police accountable too. Well, the police aren't the ones who are out there actively committing crimes every single day. And the 11 separate bills that they passed to try to hold criminals accountable, most of them were directed specifically at repeat violent offenders. Apparently that bothers her quite a bit. I mean, attempted to defund a critical program for addressing anti-displacement and supporting community economic development led by people of color. Yeah, she resigned because she couldn't get her left-wing socialist wish list through. Isn't that glorious? I love it so much. It's such a good day for Seattle. Tammy Morales, farewell. We'll see who replaces you. We'll try to advocate for someone who has a brain and who thinks about the whole, not just their far fringe base. But this is a very good day for the city of Seattle. The progressives are dropping like flies, and I just love to see it.